Hi, Inge. How you doing?
Hi, fine.
So, we decided today to have a slightly different recording thing, which means that we just actually have a chat that we regularly have, which also means that I'm now on camera and not hiding away in this way. Huh? So
Yeah,
I now feel for you how it feels all the time because it feels really awkward.
yeah.
Yeah, this is now suddenly I feel naked. Was that the same for you?
Um, no, even I guess years ago, that's how I felt like there was no safety. And then now it's just like, um, how come you're talking so funny? I ask myself,
Me? Oh, you? Oh,
why are you talking so funny? Why do you take so long to think? Why are you searching for? So I become very critical of myself because I know what I'm talking about, and at the same time, I see the hesitation. So I'm intentionally watching him, not to admire myself, but to get used to the idea, used to
mhm.
my voice again. But it still feels weird. It just feels weird.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also sometimes taped, or I was taped for my teaching, which is something I had to get used to a little bit, but which was no problem for me in some sense. I it didn't bother me at all. So but this is different. I don't know.
You know what
it's a
I
bit
think
scary.
that is? It is because, when you're teaching,
Mhm.
Stefan, perhaps it's because you've stepped in a role.
Yeah,
That's a function, that's your job. It's
yeah.
not personal. But when we do something like this, many people are also able to block that out and they're just in function and doing a job. What
Mhm.
happens with me is I really, really try to bring myself. So how I am, that's what I try to bring. This is me, whether I'm behind the camera or at the dinner table or at a party. And then you see, wow, do I want people to see that? Well, why
Yeah.
not? If it's you, part of acceptance of self. I'm not doing anything mean. So I at least start having these conversations with myself. Um, and it also teaches myself. I tell people, don't be so critical of yourself. You can only do the best that you can. And here I go. I made myself laugh because I was very critical.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, and from, well, what are people going to think? What if there's someone who knows me and whole rhetoric. But I think that with this, how we're doing this is very personal.
Yeah.
How you speak
Yeah. It's
with me and I
I
speak
can
with
always
you.
hope that only 5 people see this video or whatever. By the way, I'm looking over here, but there is my camera, and so most of because this is my bigger screen, but perhaps I actually should move it over here because then it looks weird on video if I'm always looking past you like this.
Oh, okay. I'm
Yeah.
I'm used to that too, because when
Mhm.
I have a big screen, then I'm looking at the screen like this.
Yeah.
And enough people told me, Inge, you look like you're looking away. Well, I'm not. I'm looking at them, but that's the effect again of the camera.
Okay, so perhaps it's the best way to do it when you have cold water that you just jump in and then and then you get used to it. So let me
Yes.
start out with something personal then.
Oh,
I spoke to you about this before, but perhaps it's good to reminisce it a bit. So recently I had something which I have occasionally, which is that I sort of have a lucid dream, but it's a lucid. I don't have normal lucid dreams. I have lucid dreams where I wake up in bed and I'm lying in bed and I cannot move. And there's a common phenomenon. I forgot the name for it. Um, but and then I'm in bed and I can't read very well. And then I try to call Sana, and in my dream I said, Sana, Sana. But in reality, I say, and then I like panic a bit or whatever, and it depends on the situation, but most of the time it's unpleasant. It really feels unpleasant because it feels like I'm not getting enough oxygen or whatever. And then I really wake up, and I wake up from a really deep sleep, and I'm really tired, and then I don't dare to sleep anymore. Because if I go back to sleep, more often than not, I again experience the same thing.
You end up in the same dream?
Well,
Wow.
then I also, well, if I fall asleep after I've done this, it can happen that this occurs again, like that I will start dreaming, I think, but at some point I wake up in the dream and I'm lying in bed, so I feel myself lying in bed. So it's a weird mixture of like what's real and what's not, because I'm actually lying in bed, and I feel myself lying in bed, and I dream that I'm lying, for example, on my left side, and I actually am. So yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you.
Although I'm not an expert on lucid dreaming, the idea of lucid dreaming is that you at some point can direct what you're dreaming or what's happening in the dream.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Um, so I don't know that much. I don't recall many dreams. If I have a dream, it usually has to do with a message. And then,
Mm-hmm.
so the form is completely different because then it's almost like, well, it's like having a vision, only you're asleep. Same feeling, same results. And in your case, um, the lucid dreaming, you go deep, 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 deep. And then your subconscious is making a connection with your intellect. See? Then you wake up. If you go back to sleep, that same thing happens because your subconscious is in the conscious level. It's mixed.
Mm.
So your body experiences it as if you're experiencing it in the here and now for real. That is where some of the tiredness comes from. I have luckily never had a dream that I was afraid that to go back to sleep, to go back into it. But I also have had times where the dream can continue, but they were messages.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps since I'm accustomed to receiving messages, to a certain point, it's separate from self. Whereas when you're dreaming, this is happening to you. And if you cannot move, you cannot move. So you are powerless. And Sarna can't hear you because, in fact, you're not using voice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a really weird situation. Like, I tried to train myself to not panic. Like, for example, actually practice lying down and like breathing shallow and not panicking while having like the feeling that you have less oxygen or whatever. Because like you're lying sleeping, so it's not much of a problem. And then like to get into an actual lucid dream, but it never worked like so far. So it's a bit frustrating and also tiring then, because I don't want to sleep anymore then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and it really does interest me. There's somebody that I know, he was interested in practicing with it. Um, I waited to hear more, but I never heard more. I know
Mm-hmm.
more about message dreams. I know a little bit about dream walking, but that's completely different.
Yeah.
But actually, dream walking, you're doing the walking. So it's not again, it's not happening to you. You're
Mm-hmm.
actively participating when you do dream walking in someone else's dream.
Oh,
I wonder
okay.
if that was bad to mention that because dream walking is no, 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 no. You have to be very careful when you do that because you can affect the thought processes of a person. So
Yeah,
you can,
but like I doubt that I'm deliberately going into somebody else's dream or subconsciously or whatever.
No, but I mentioned those. I mentioned a few kinds of dreams that I'm more familiar with. Symbolic dreams, and then I don't know why the dream walking came out. That it's
Can I ask a bit more about what you
emotion.
actually said? Like, because you said something like, it's something like with the intellect. Like, so I'm sleeping and then I'm unconscious in some sense, right?
Yes.
And my subconscious is dreaming.
Yes. Your
Okay.
subconscious then activates the dream, connects with your intellect that is still.
And my intellect is essentially my brain then.
Yes. And you have intellect in your subconscious, but I mean intellect in your waking time. Because we know the mind can affect the body, right? This goes back to, body, mind, spirit.
It matches well with.
So it sort of fits. If you think positive, your body will react positive. If you think, I'm healthy, I feel good, your body will produce a chemical balance that accommodates the mind because the mind is so powerful. So in your dream, the subconscious triggers thoughts, symbolisms, situations, and connects with the intellect. And then you have lack of oxygen because you are actually feeling the anxiety, the panic. So,
so it's the other way around. I am anxious, and because of that, I feel like I have less oxygen. And it's not like I have less oxygen, and because of that I feel panicked. Okay.
Yes. Whatever you're dreaming about is something that is symbolized. For example, in this case, because you could dream about all kinds of things. I assume you don't always dream the same thing.
No.
In this case, you're in bed and you can't move. Okay, your normal function is you can move. But in this dream, it feels so real because it's connected to your mind, that's intellectual mind, and your body starts reacting. And you're actually saying, oh my God, I can't move. You see? Then the anxiety comes, and that's all part of it. Then, oh, I can't get enough oxygen. People have an anxiety attack. They can't absorb oxygen properly because their lungs aren't functioning properly. Say the anxiety. So, in fact, I would go one step further and suggest while awake, because you're more in control and less likely to have an anxiety attack, explore what is it that you haven't addressed? What is it that makes you feel to be in a state of not empowered? Being in bed, not being able to move, is a state of not being empowered.
So you really say this is a dream I get into because it symbolizes something from my real life or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I never thought about it like that, because I just thought when you're sleeping, like there's something in your brain that blocks your body from moving, so you don't sleepwalk. So I thought I just experience half waking up or something like that.
That could also be. There's different causes for it that you're interpreting that your mind is stopping you from walking as not being able to move. That's your protection. But I would say in this case, I think that there's something that you're not completely comfortable with, and your subconscious mind interprets it possibly, as something a lot worse than what is. Because obviously, if you had something in your life that could paralyze you, you would take care of it and not get paralyzed, right?
Yeah.
So there is something that a memory, and it's being interpreted in a different way. Whenever I say something, Stefan, I want to leave room. There is usually not just one answer to any question. There are always variances.
Yeah, that makes sense. By the way, it's called sleep paralysis. That's the term.
Yes.
Like if you
And
Google
it's
it,
not
it's
that
like
uncommon. It is not
yeah,
that uncommon.
yes, indeed, yeah. So like my hope was always like that this was just a prelude to learning how to do lucid dreaming, but
No, I don't, I'm very weak on the lucid dreaming. Talk to me about things people can do in their dreams. Then 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 maybe I'll be a little bit helpful or it's interesting. Lucid dreaming is in fact very interesting because I've heard that it can be very helpful.
Oh, by the way,
So
did you listen to the or at least part of the set book I sent you the link to?
I
No.
started listening to it and I fell asleep because it was so uh, what it is that you're busy. We're busy with what? Well, we'll leave it between here and there. So then I say, okay, it's quiet. Now I'm going to listen to it because people like, okay, Arno likes to listen to music and not quiet music. So then that's not a good time to do that. So right before I go to bed or go to sleep, that's a good time because then the room's quiet. And
Yeah.
I listen to it and I fell asleep. I'm going to go back to it, but already in the beginning I said, well, I don't agree with that. And then I said, Inge, stop it. You're doing it again. You're filtering, you're looking, and just go and listen. So,
Yeah. Could it be that because like Seth has the same problem that he has to mold like the truth
yes,
into words,
yes,
and then you will lose some information, like
yes, or you have to use whatever word is available. So it's
analogies.
not exact what he is trying to say. And I reminded myself of that. So I said, okay, you have to take time when you're not about to go to sleep and go into another room or something and just listen, do something quietly, like maybe pet the dogs, brush the dogs, do that type of thing. But I literally, it fell asleep. And although it's a good thing because I don't always sleep very easily, but it brought me on a rhythm where it was comfortable. So that was one plus for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have also this favorite meditation video that I put on if I want to fall asleep, because it's only been very rarely that I actually did this meditation until the end. Like that was like my way to go. So oh yeah, by the way, so like I sometimes I hear Seth speak and I think nowadays people would call it differently. For example, he talks about like feeling tones or whatever, or like frameworks. And I think that nowadays, for example, people would call such things more like a frequency or
Yes.
vibration. Like, and that's the more popular term nowadays for these type of things that Seth tried to explain.
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe very soon. Um, I tend to call everything movement. When I'm in a working conversation and I describe something, I say this movement. I discovered quickly that most people didn't understand what I mean by the word movement. And I said, well, what it is, it's basically a frequency, but more. So it also includes the action and the integration in from knowing it to actually living, experiencing it. So the movement is complete. But in fact, if you stripped everything away, you're back at the word frequency. But I can't use the word frequency because it's not complete. And that's sort of my design. As soon as I realized that there's another word to make it more complete, that's the word that I will use. But that's me. But people have asked me, what do you mean by movement, Inge? And I'll explain. But I'm sure, should somebody run across one of my videos where I use the word movement, if it's a few years from now, they'll recognize it. If it's old school people, they'll say, well, what does she mean by movement? The understanding of words is very important. how people used words 50 years ago, 30 years ago, it's different. There's an expansion with the acceptance that quote unquote spirituality has actual content. It's real. The acceptance and the use of the words has expanded. So, yeah, even with me, when I used to talk about spirituality,
and also words like quantum, like that's a buzzword that actually came from, I think, from physics, because
yes,
like you have quantum mechanics, and nowadays there's even like quantum, the word quantum physics being used in spirituality, but meaning something completely different than like
it means different. It's different than it actually is. I have noticed that people fell in love with the words quantum because it seemed to be able to marry science and the conventional spirituality. It's better than what we had before, Stefan, but it's not exact.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because that's what confused me all the time.
Yes.
I don't know much about like actual physics, quantum mechanics, but the things that I knew from there, like they were rudimentary connected to like the quantum physics that spiritual people were talking about. But I just got an itch anytime I saw a video like that, and I think, but that has nothing to do with quantum physics. What are they doing? Like, yeah,
It is
sort of lost
the
me.
quantum physics. It's being used as a marriage word, and it is also often used to explain how people who see things differently than everyday people. So they see the depth, they see all directions.
Oh yeah, because Inge, you're like really quantum if you talk like that.
Yeah,
Something like that. Yeah.
that's what I've been told. Inge,
Oh
you
yeah,
talk
you're
quantum
so
physics,
quantum.
and I
Yeah.
said, "Oh, well, that's nice, but I don't know anything about that."
Yeah.
And I've mentioned it to you. Well, maybe that's your area. I don't know everything. I can only do my best to describe
I'm a mere
what I see.
mathematician. Physics is too difficult for me.
Well, I disagree, but that could be for another video.
I get more interested in it. Like I recently watched a YouTube video on gravity.
Yeah.
And I have the impression that like still like physics people disagree or don't really understand what gravity is or how it works.
Both. Because if you have 10 people, 10 people could have just a slightly different version of understanding, which then makes them disagree. Okay. Science people, and now if you let me, I will include math people.
Okay, you're allowed.
Part of that sciences is they like things that prove. Okay, but spirituality is you prove one thing, and all that will lead to is that you're proving that there's more. That's another version.
Yeah.
It depends on where you're looking from. This is
Yeah,
one.
I quickly discovered like that the whole concept of proof which you have in mathematics, you cannot apply it or hardly apply it at all to spiritual stuff. Spiritual stuff is about experiences and
Yes.
not about like if I have an experience, I can tell you about it to you, but I can't prove it to you.
No.
An experience you cannot transfer. I can describe it and explain it, but it's very hard for me to prove to you that I really experienced this or that it's real for me or that I think it's real. If you're convinced that I'm just a lunatic, like simply by experiencing something, like then yeah, I cannot disprove that.
I watched a documentary about Jomanda. I just now double checked. Should you mention that name? Should you not mention that name? No, I've never met her. I've never experienced her. I just watched the documentary. And I ended up being very, very, very sad because it seemed like the world focused on the one error that she made. And it was never clear if she actually told her, don't go to, she told her to the best of her ability. So then
Mm-hmm.
you get these experts, and there is no such thing as healing. It's
Mm-hmm.
all placebo effect. It's all this. And they had a very, the documentary I thought first was meant to bring both sides in a balanced way.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. But it didn't. It didn't. And then, you know, it is, why did I bring this up? Because, first they burned everybody. They also drowned people they thought to be witches. And if you survived, then, that you really are a witch. If you drowned, oh, well, we made a mistake. And I wondered about why is so much energy being put into disproving what some people believe. There's a lot of energy being put in that. When
Mm-hmm.
people talk about this is all phony, they're all cheaters, that's a lot of negative energy going out. And they talk about people should be protected. She was charging what, 10 or 12 euros for half
I
a
think it
day
was
of
golden still
entertainment.
back then.
I know, but I just like
Mm-hmm.
guilders, yeah, even less value. I said, how much do people spend on candy in a month? So if once a month or once a week, you did, what are people talking about? It wasn't her. It's not like she's my best friend. That
Mm-hmm.
was her path. But trying to discredit all people that work with energy, that's a lot of energy wasted, spent. And then
Mm-hmm.
you have all these doctors. And then I'm only going to mention it once and then we'll move on because I don't want to get everybody mad at me. All these expert doctors that people trusted that said, take the vaccine or COVID will kill you and your children and your family and your friends. Why aren't they putting that much energy into exposing the hidden agendas there? This is then leading us to a very touchy subject, the mind of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't fashionable. There are a lot of people out there, just people I know personally, who've taken vaccinations and they're very, very sorry because they're not well and they're never going to get well again. Direct effects from the vaccination. Okay? The mind of humanity doesn't want to acknowledge this. The mind of humanity is still looking for who is responsible. Why are they doing that? Because they're still avoiding taking responsibility of self. There were plenty of people who warned against possible side effects. There were people out there that are no longer friends because one would want to take the vaccine, the other one said no, and then the other one said, if I get sick, it's your fault. If I die, it's your fault. And then in the end, oh, I should never have taken that vaccine. What is happening? So I wondered about that. Why are these educated people, PhDs, spending so much energy discrediting energy work when they could focus on proven lies? Proven lies. There are studies. So that's the thought. I
Mhm.
don't want to go into it because then we have to talk in
Well, yeah, I mean,
collective mind of
this is
humanity.
you do touch some very interesting things, because, like, I think part of my fear of being visible in this video, for example, also is due to, for example, things that happened to people like Jomanda. Like, if you like show your head, like come on TV, it's cut off.
Yes.
And perhaps like the sewing machines have slowly become less, how you say, effective, because like you hear more and more like people who are open about these kind of things. But like, I mean, this is a scary story about Jomanda. Like, also when I heard it when I was young, I thought, oh, that's a charlatan woman. Like, she does this and does that. And now in retrospect, I don't know. But I think that some people were just angry at her, and then like something bad happened like that. Yeah. And like yeah, so I also found it scary that you started talking about vaccines. Like, I think, oh no, I'm in a video with vaccine.
I know.
Yeah.
I was.
And then you said another thing that I also think, like, you talked about like PhDs and people like that, but like my experience is, and that's my saying that I repeat very often, and you heard it before, is that never underestimate the stupidity of smart people, me included. Like, you can be very intelligent, very smart, and make very logical decisions, and they're completely wrong.
Yes.
Because you also don't realize what are your subconscious motives.
And you know what? There's nothing in being wrong. The clue is how much energy are you putting into your belief that you're 100% right and someone else is wrong.
Mhm.
Okay. Once you do that, then you're closing the doors. Anybody can be wrong, but at least stay open to the possibility that additional information may come along that could make, for instance, a better world, better relationship with each other.
Yeah.
And I'm very conscious, Stefan, of that you're visible. And this is the kind of conversation you and I have anyway.
Yeah.
And I believe it had to be. I'm also careful because I don't want somebody to come after me just because I have an opinion. I'm not a doctor. So if you don't want to post a video, it's okay, because you know what? It's in the air. The thoughts are in the air. People became afraid to talk about their opinion about certain things going on in Earth. So that is also.
Yeah, I mean, that was
how come we
one of the
started
most
talking?
scary things in during the pandemic, was that up to a certain extent you cannot voice your opinion, because then immediately you're put into a certain corner.
Yes.
Or like or if you put it on Facebook, it's either automatically deleted or deleted after a time. I didn't have any, like, how you say, stuff that I really wanted to post that I didn't post, but the fact that this happened, that disturbed me really a lot.
Yes.
Like, I think people should be just able to just post whatever they want, and even this message that then appears underneath it, directing you to official sources, which at some point, like, now we know are like really wrong. That's kind of funny. Like,
It
for
was.
example, like the origin of like the disease, that's now clear that it's not from bats. Like, that's out there. Like, yeah.
And you know what? I'm very neutral with things. I'm very open, and there was something that appeared on my page, and it wasn't. I don't even remember what it was, but it was related to COVID, and it wasn't a big deal. But I said, that feels right, so I shared it. Okay. Then for the longest period, I suddenly couldn't share anything. So some algorithm out there saw that I shared something with the word corona or COVID in it, and it freaked out and said, oh, we're not going to let her share. But there's a number of people that talk more openly, and it took them a long time. You didn't even get a warning. You just suddenly, after that was shared, you couldn't share anything on Facebook.
Who knows, after posting this video, that the algorithm just shuts down the whole channel automatically.
That would be like so funny, because you know why? Then that will tell us that what we had to say drew enough attention. And I'll just go talk to people in person. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that you reach one person, a million people. Just do your function, do the best you can. And if YouTube eats you up because I said the wrong thing, then you know what? Then I'll just maybe have a barbecue or something, have fun, and tell people what I think and ask them what they think. We cannot always be afraid. Look, if your livelihood depends on this, then I would recommend, either don't say anything controversial like that, or have a backup job. But I'm not doing this for the money. So if somebody takes objection to me saying that there's a problem in the mind of humanity, the collective mind, and it needs to be addressed, otherwise we're already past the point of no damage. We're well past. Look at the environment. If people don't wake up, there's going to be a problem. The one thing people worry about is some birds are becoming extinct, some plants. We're not exempt from extinction, people. We are organic. So I will continue to do my best in my mom and pop way. And maybe it's for something for someone who then looks further. But it's important that we address the fact that we have fear. There's a lot of fear. Don't even start talking about digital finances, that no cash exists anymore. Do people realize, oh, it's convenient? Yeah, you never have to carry cash, just click, 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 click. Do you realize if somebody decides that you've purchased too many chocolate cookies?
It might be a lifesaver if this person...
Yeah, she's had her quota of chocolate cookies. They could just shut that down. Shut it down. In a way, technology is wonderful. It's made our life richer. Medicine, yeah, that type of thing. Vehicles. The negative is that it's too easy for humanity to forget we're supposed to be the creators, the directors of these technological advances. Once the technological advances determine how we are as humans, that's not good.
But can you also say something positive?
Oh, this is positive.
It is. Why did it sound so gloomy to me?
Because I'm serious, and when I'm really serious, sometimes I sound gloomy, or sometimes I sound angry.
I mean, it was the things that you said, not how.
Yes, no, they're just serious. It is. Why?
I mean, if you say that humanity is biological and we're not exempt from extermination, it doesn't mean that you expect that will happen. I hope.
I hope not. If I expected that would happen, then I wouldn't spend my time talking on the YouTube. I'd be out having fun in my garden while it lasts. See? But it's important to wake up.
Yeah.
That's what it's about. So it's a positive. There are enough people who are aware that more people are not aware enough. It's responsibility for self. Start taking the time to know what you are. Not
If
only
you talk
who you
about
are.
like the consciousness of humanity, it gets to me that like there has been some change already. Like for example, like what you say, like there is in what way or whatever you want, there is a higher consciousness, for example, about the environment, whatever it may mean.
Yes,
That
yes.
20,
The
30, 40 years.
collective human consciousness has enough light points that now that is working like a network. So there, the shifts are working, but the more people that can support that positive,
Mm-hmm.
the stronger that positive becomes. You see, that's the reality of it.
Yeah.
If you don't wash your dishes for a year and just keep buying new dishes, new dishes, new dishes, then probably after a year you couldn't get to your kitchen sink to wash those dishes anymore. And that is not where we want to go to. We want
Mm-hmm.
to start cleaning up. There are so many wonderful initiatives from people, like people that just one person or 10 people are cleaning up whole regions.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the initiatives that today's technology, internet, can help support by connecting, by making people aware that this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's
Is it that like um, consciousness of humanity is in fact making progress in that sense?
yes,
Huh?
yes,
So that I mean that's something positive, like.
yes.
Mhm. But it could be that it's like in certain aspects not going fast enough, and then like it will cause some pus to at some point surface or whatever.
Oh, always, but that's the learning process.
Mm-hmm.
Because not everybody thinks the same. So there'll always be people who are saying, not my problem.
Yeah.
You see?
Mm-hmm.
So, and even that is okay, or that's how I look at it, Stefan. You know, if as long as you have enough people who are willing and able to do the carrying, then there is room for people who don't want to be awake. But it's very important that as many people as possible become aware,
Mm-hmm.
awake, and are willing and able to bring changes, even if it's in their own individual life.
Can you specify a little bit more what you mean by awake and aware? Because it can mean many things.
Um,
It can be not
in
sleep.
this in this case, in this case,
Mm-hmm.
I'm staying with the environment.
Okay.
Awake is awake to the responsibility that even if you're only one person, what you do that's destructive, like I'll give an easy example. You need to throw batteries at the store in a special container,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't feel like it. So guess what? You just throw it in your garbage.
Mm-hmm.
You're not completely awake and aware enough to take responsibility to the point where you say, if a million people did that, that's a lot of batteries.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's so easy to say, but yeah, it's just me.
Of course it is.
Mm-hmm.
Of course it is. However, once you're awake and aware and have accepted responsibility of self, believe me, it's less easy. You might
Mm-hmm.
go as far as actually still throwing it in the garbage, and then you can't sleep at night. And,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not supposed to do that.
It's like similar to like, for example, if I I'm walking down the street, nobody knows me, and I'm a bit angry, and I just hit a random person in the face.
Yes.
And nobody has seen it, nobody knows it, and then I get home. I hit somebody. I really feel bad. This is not me.
Yes.
It's similar like that. Yeah.
Yes, and that doesn't work anymore either. That no, well, maybe not another human being has seen it, but consciousness has felt it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a negative feed to the consciousness of humanity.
So perhaps that's a good way to look at these things. So when I have something like this, and it seems to me futile to throw the batteries in the special container and like collect them for that, that it's more than the act what I'm doing. It's also something energetically or whatever is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, exactly. That's what I mean, is that people
Mm-hmm.
look beyond the one act,
Mm-hmm.
but look at the the brain movement, the intention. When you start acting according to what you know, then there's the integration of knowing, and knowing with lowercase k then grows
Mm-hmm.
into knowing with capital K. I talk all the time about the garden here,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to use pesticide and this. And somebody was, Inge, what you gonna do? Save the whole area when there's no food in the grocery stores? I said, no, I'm not trying to save anybody in that way. My intention of doing the best that I can, not to use so much pesticides, to grow naturally, to try to be in harmony with nature, even at this small lot. 1,300 square meters isn't that big. I'm not a farm.
Mm-hmm.
It's about my intention. That same intention can be generated on a balcony.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need a farm. When you're talking farm size, then you're talking about the act. The act has an impact. People
I
forget
agree.
how much of an impact thoughts have, intentions have. So that's, for me, that's very important. It's all about the intention and the movement behind the behavior, the movement behind the act.
I have a question on this because perhaps some people who at some point watch this video will turn it off now that they know that both of us eat meat.
Yes?
I was a vegetarian for a while, but now like also due to circumstances, I'm with a partner who like cannot eat a lot of things, and then like eating meat is one of the few things that you can do. But anyway, I'm not a vegetarian anymore. And so how is this then? Is it like being a vegetarian like also better or not? Or how should we see that? Like, am
How
I
I
evil?
look,
Am I not living up to my consciousness now that I eat meat?
I don't know if I wouldn't make that judgment. I'm living up to my consciousness. I still eat meat. Um, okay, to make a sort of judgment call, which I try never to do because everybody has their own reasons, we have to go back to original intention, original movement. What is driving you to become a vegetarian? Okay. Um, I know people who are vegetarian. I know people who are vegans. Okay. Um, so I'm trying to be tactful. The general vegetarian, not all. I know people who are very committed for very good reasons. They will say, what animal suffering and this and that. It's not about animal suffering. What I believe people need to really learn and become conscious of is respect. When does it stop? You disrespect an animal because you eat it? Or do you disrespect the grasshopper? Or do you disrespect the snail that's eating your vegetarian food supply? What do? You see, it's your intention, the respect. Is it okay to eat an animal? It depends. Is it better not to eat at all? Because then you've got the entire range, right? They are now proving that plants sense when they're about to be damaged. So if you want to look at consciousness, you shouldn't eat plants either, because they can sense that they're going to be damaged and killed. How far do we want to go, and how do we want to go about it? This is the position I have taken. When I cook, I realize that an animal and a plant has had its life ended. I realize that I'm using water. I realize that it's a convenience to have water come out of the faucet. Let's start there. Become conscious of what you're consuming, how you're consuming it, for what reasons, and what is your frame of mind. Where is your mind when you are preparing to nourish yourself? There's a difference. There's a difference when you wash your hands and you're not even thinking, and you're washing your hands and you're conscious that you are still consuming. It's not even regular water out of a stream anymore. You know what happens to the environment because we need clean tap water? Another conversation, another study. What I am very upset about is the amount of meat that's consumed and wasted, and how these animals are kept in order to get the, I want to say dollar, but here we're euros, to get the amount of money that is wanted, not needed, to be returned on the animals. See, you can have an animal and it could be miserable its entire life. And then it's consumed, slaughtered. Even there, how do you slaughter? Then you can have an animal who lives a certain amount of time. It's well kept, it's respected, it's loved, it's recognized for how important it is for continuation of life, so to speak. And then address the fact that you are taking its life so that you may live. Is it ideal? No. But we live in a three-dimensional world. As long as we live in a three-dimensional world, we need to eat. There was a time in my life, I was quite young, and probably they didn't have as many studies on certain things. And I had a problem with trying to see the American English name, folic acid.
Mhm.
I had reduced my meat consumption to minimal. I was instructed by my dietitian and the doctor I had to eat red meat, and not well done.
Mhm.
I have a problem eating meat that's like half raw. Some people loves their steak like that. Okay, so there's different things for different people, and it's the attitude. The attitude. What space is your head in? You say, well, uh, one chicken leg is enough. No, I can afford to eat a whole chicken, so I'm going to eat a whole chicken. And tomorrow I need another chicken. And because I eat a lot of chicken, that chicken's got to be cheap. See? So that chicken's got to be put in a little pen, in a little cage, and suffer. And I like chicken breast. Therefore, we've got to have big chicken breasts. The chicken is raised or bred so they can't even walk anymore and completely deformed. They're not even natural chickens. Do you see the hidden problems? That's what I have a problem with. Is that because of consumption style, there's a humongous amount of disrespect. Disrespect for what human beings need in order to live. It's okay that we need it. It's not okay that we take just because we can.
Yeah, that's a clear statement. By the way, we're at it all for almost an hour now. So
that's very long. Can you chop this up? Nobody, I don't know. I don't know who could sit.
Nobody needs to watch it till the end.
Yeah.
That's also the thing.
You could.
I mean, when I watch videos that for example, of the set book, I do this while gaming. So you can try that too, like that you go gaming and then like you in the meantime you listen to it. But I mean, for example, you also have the Joe Rogan Experience or other podcasters, and you can listen to them or not, and you pick episodes or not. So it's not like we're not a teaching channel where you have to condense everything to like.
No, and I have to say,
can also be some part blah blah like this.
And I don't mind cutting things up into little sections, but you might know what, Stefan, this conversation style, for me, you cover a lot more subjects. We covered a lot of subjects.
Yeah, and also like, I mean, I let you ramble a little bit more. Like when we make the other videos, I try to put you more on a leash, and you actually put yourself also more on the leash.
No, and I like it, and I think that's necessary, because if you're trying to make something more clear, then it's better to have those little short videos explaining this point, this point, this point. But how we are discussing things tonight, if people got together and they had a serious conversation about quote unquote spiritual things, I much prefer this, because it's automatically integrated in a natural flow. Lessons or rules, that's exterior information. It's like going to school. But a conversation, within the conversation, your system already decides, what am I going to listen to? What am I going to remember? And later on, well, I remember this, but I don't agree with this, and I do agree with that, etc. And there's then a coming together. Then it's interactive. It goes two directions. It's not just me saying, well, there are 4 parts: body, mind, spirit, soul. Well, there are many more parts. They're just main parts. This is my preferred thing. If I could once a month have 20 people over and say, everybody, let's talk. How do you see things? Share your point of reference and try to let us know which reference point are you using from which point of reference. That's a natural flow, and guaranteed people will learn much faster in that way when the conversation is interactive, and learn what is important to them, not what you or I or someone else thinks is important. Because that other person is going to say, yeah, well, what about this? So then there's a response. So again, if they wait till the end or they skip to the end, which I lots of times do, I want to know the end, then I go back to the beginning, then I go back to the middle. Then they'll know that part of me. too. So in a way, I'm letting people know me. I don't know if it helps anybody, but
shall we wrap it up with that, or do you want to make a
yes.
closing statement?
No, there's no closing statement.
Very good.
And we once again will see. There, I don't think so, unless you think there should be a closing statement.
No. Yeah, actually. So I'm gonna push the stop button. So
yes,
I don't know if anybody ever sees this, but thank you. And so see you some next time.